Hey, it's Josh Scott here, out here in the bee yard. It is the middle of March 2023, and food stores are getting really low on these hives. So I've been making some soft sugar brick. I'm getting ready to restore a lot of the sugar brick, and in these hives, there's only like 1 or 2 hives that have any left. The bees are really going through their food stores right now. They're coming out of the winter time. They're already low. March is the #1 time for starvation with hives. The queen is starting to ramp up her laying, so there's more bees in the hive, more mouths to feed, and we still have these cold days and nights in Kentucky here where the temperatures are still in the 20s and the 30s, and the bees are not out flying, even though we have some early flowers and trees that are blooming. The bees cannot get out of the hive to go forage on that, so the risk of starvation is really high. In fact, I lost my first hive a few days ago. It's this one. Let's see here if I can point to it on the screen. It's this one gray one right here, and I'll show that to you later. So they starved within the last 2 or 3 days. 100% my fault. I did not get out here and restore their food and put sugar brick in the hive. I checked on them a few weeks ago and they had plenty, and then I went out here a couple days ago and all the bees were clustered together and they had starved. It's sad, but it happens. It's my fault. We try to prevent that, but you know, if it happens to you, don't beat yourself up over it. It happens to the best of us. The best we can do is learn and try to, you know, prevent that from happening again, even though I know full well that March is the #1 time that colonies starve. So I'm out here trying to make sure the rest of my colonies do great. They've been out here flying, so they look like they're all doing well. I'm gonna pop the tops on some of them, just kind of check on colony size. I already know that a couple of them are exploding with bees. They're probably ready to swarm on me. So I'm just gonna make sure that they have enough food to get them through the next couple weeks, and then once the weather consistently stays a little warmer, that's when I'm gonna go ahead and put the honey supers on and get ready for the flow here in Kentucky. So I'll shoot a quick video and just kind of show you guys how I replenish the sugar brick in case you're wanting to do the same with your hives now. Okay, we'll go ahead and check out this first colony. I forgot to mention, I think I mentioned it's mid-March. It's about 60 degrees, a little over 60 degrees out here, so not too chilly. And there's plenty of foraging activity going on right now. The bees are happy to be out and about. So these are those Vivaldi boards that have worked real well throughout the entire winter with this Reflectix material that I use as kind of a thermal barrier to keep the heat back down in the hive, along with this burlap sack. And they're a little agitated here. Honestly, this colony still has quite a bit of sugar brick left, so I'm actually just going to leave this one alone. They appear to be doing good just based on the activity on the entrance. They got plenty of food here if they need it. They're not really happy to see me. That's okay. Looking on the front here, definitely see pollen coming in. And I don't know if you can see it on camera. Let me see if I can take it off the stand and show you here. You'll see, I see some yellow pollen coming in. That's a fantastic sign, especially, it's a good way to just quickly know whether or not the hive is queen right and that everything is going well in the hive. We'll see here if we can see a forager come back with some pollen sacs on. I just peeked down and saw a bee that had some pollen baskets on, so we'll wait a few seconds here. You can see quite a bit of activity over here. I don't know if there's lots of pollen going in that hive. Might as well show you this one so you can see what the pollen coming in looks like. bee has a little bit of pollen there, the one hanging on the outside. See the yellow pollen. There's pollen right there. You gotta look, see right there, pollen baskets. They go in the hive so quick, sometimes you miss it. Yep, there's more right there, more pollen, yellow pollen, white pollen, off-white. There's yellow going in now. So that's a really good sign. Without even opening the top of the colony, it's a good sign that they're queen right. There was some pollen going in on this one right there. So hopefully y'all can see that. Oh, here, she just landed on my, see the pollen baskets? I mean, there's not much there, but she'll continue to forage. See it on the other side here, focus. See that on her hind leg there? That's a pollen basket. And there's another one that just landed on me. She's got pollen as well. So, good foraging activity here. All right, come on, girls. All right. So I'm gonna go ahead and move on to the next hive, and we'll take a peek and see how their sugar brick's looking. All right, let's take a look at this next hive here. I'm almost positive this one's out. Most of them, I put a little bit of sugar brick on a couple days ago, and I'm sure they've gone through it. Now see, so this is that moisture I was talking about. So see this condensation here on the top side of the reflectix? And you can even see it run off when I tilt it. So this is from the bees exhaling. This is from their breath inside the hive. So I guarantee you, I can tell just by looking at this and seeing a little bit of moisture here on the burlap that there is a ton of bees up in the Vivaldi inner square shim. And you'll see that when I pull this burlap off. And that's not a ton of moisture. I've had some of the burlap sacks that are pretty wet here, but again, they're doing their job. They're wicking the moisture out of the hive, and then there's enough of a wind through this corridor here on the transmission line that comes through these holes in the front and back of the Vivaldi board and helps evaporate this off. Within a couple days, when our temperatures drop to 30 or 20 degrees, all this moisture here is going to be evaporated out. There's so much pollen coming in this hive right now. I can just see the bees coming in. So see them all? And I had sugar brick on top of this all over here just 2 days ago, and they've already eaten it all. Except this little piece here, so that's good. I'm gonna go ahead and pull the burlap out of here. And again, it's wet a little bit through here, but not throughout the whole burlap. And again, it's doing its job. Now this is the part that's annoying. So you've got a couple of options here, and one of my good friends, Laura, gave me a nice tip on this. So if it's really cold outside, which is not today, but let's say it's 20, 25 degrees outside, and this colony clearly needs more food. If I were to pull this square off right now, I would probably kill most of these bees. Now, it's highly, highly unlikely that the queen is in here. She's likely down in the brood nest somewhere between one of the frames. And I'll pull the top off this one so you can see because it's warm enough. We're not necessarily going to find her. We're just going to quickly look for evidence that we have a good laying queen in here. I'm 99% sure that I do, just based off of the entrance activity. The fact that these bees are bringing in pollen like crazy and they're on a mission going in and out, that tells me that this hive is queen right. So I'm not going to spend a lot of time finding her. I just want to find evidence of her. I'd like to see some brood, some fresh eggs. I'd like to see how big this colony is. But first and foremost, to replace this sugar brick, if I wasn't going to open this colony, you have a couple of options. Number one, I could just sprinkle some more sugar brick on here, which is what I did the other day. That prevents all these bees here from dying and having to lift off the actual shim, and then risk squishing a bunch of bees, killing a bunch of bees because of the cold weather. Now, because it's 60 degrees out here and the bees are flying, I'm gonna go ahead and smoke these bees, which will drive some of them back down, but not all of them, and then pull this square off, and I can shake the bees out, and they will fall either down on the entrance or the foragers will fly off. And then I'll smoke the rest of them in and out here and make sure I get all the bees, for the most part, off of the Vivaldi board. Then I'll take this off and we'll do a quick inspection and whatnot, but then I'll be able to put the Vivaldi board back. And I've pre-made these sugar bricks, and I need to post another video on the recipe that I use. I've modified it a little bit from ones that I've used in the past. And now I have it to where it's pretty solid. You can still press on this, it's not that firm, but it stays in place, and then I can just set this right on top and replace this one, and the bees will have another, you know, this may last 4 or 5 days for this colony with how quickly they're going through the sugar brick. So let's go ahead and give them a little bit of smoke, try to drive these bees back down in the hive. And I don't know if you can see it on the camera, but they're already starting to comb up in here. So this time of the year, March, April, when the flow is about to kick in, the bees are in wax producing mode. They know that they are getting ready to explode in numbers. And so what they're doing is, any available space in the hive, they're gonna start drawing comb. Because they want that queen to have as much room as possible to lay eggs and make more bees. Because right now the population in the hive is getting ready to ramp up considerably. And that's why you see this burr comb. So you may see some people post videos where they have like these large quilt boxes. They don't have just little inner shims here. And there's like burr comb everywhere in here. That's why everybody's always like, you know, question as a new beekeeper, when do I pull my quilt boxes? Well, it is kind of a balancing act. You don't want to pull them too early, because if it's still cold out and the bees could use that added warmth, then you want to keep them on. If you wait too late, you're going to have an incredible mess on your hands. Again, not a Vivaldi board, because the worst it would get is they just build a bunch of comb in here. But other quilt boxes that are large and deep, you could have burr comb everywhere in there, and that's just a huge mess, and your queen's up in there laying, and you've got all this brood that you're probably going to have to get rid of, and you just kind of want to avoid that at all costs. So a lot of the bees have actually gone down in here, which is pretty nice. They've got their butts up in the air though, in kind of a defense posture. They're not too happy right now. They're probably pretty protective of the small amount of food that they still have in the hive. This time of year before the flow starts, you still have plenty of foragers in the hive. They're kind of pissy. They don't really want you in here. They let you know that they don't want you in here. And so, what I'll do is I'll just end up shaking the rest of these bees out, because it's warm enough, and you can just kind of tap them out here. And there's a hive beetle. Smash him. Bye, you're not welcome. Okay. And we just have a couple of bees remaining here. So I'm gonna go ahead and give them some more smoke. And you see that comb I was talking about right here? And the first thing I'm gonna do is I'm gonna look for eggs. And there's no eggs in there. So the queen's at least not up here laying yet. Now I'm gonna go ahead and smoke the entrance a little bit. For those new to beekeeping, smoke does two things. It masks the alarm pheromone that bees emit when the hive is under attack. And the other thing is, it tells the bees their hive is on fire. And now they no longer care about Mr. or Mrs. Beekeeper. Now they're worried about gorging themselves on any honey or any food that they have, because they're planning to abandon ship, is what they're doing. So we smoke for two reasons. And it also helps drive the bees in a direction that we want to. So smoking on the front here is kind of like knocking on a door. You know, just like everyone else, you would want a stranger to knock on your front door before he or she came into your house. And we're doing the same thing as beekeepers here. So I'm gonna go ahead and take a look inside this hive shortly. And let's see what's going on. So there's probably gonna be a lot of bees on the bottom cover of this hive. Pro tip number one, always look at your inner cover and do a thorough inspection to try to see if your queen is on this inner cover before you set it on the ground. And I'm looking here, and so they've got a lot of comb here that they're starting to draw because it's almost go time for the bees. And so again, I'm just really giving, I don't think that, okay, I'm just throwing out a number here. Let's say 95% of the time the queen is not on your inner cover, or in this case, the bottom of a Vivaldi board. But I absolutely have found queens here before. So before I do something stupid, like put my queen on the ground and lose her, or what I'm gonna end up doing is tapping all these bees back in the hive, I don't really wanna jar her if I don't have to. And queens often have cloaks of invisibility, so I'm just making sure that I'm giving a thorough look here and I don't miss her. Most of my queens are marked, but again, if you had a hive swarm or something and you didn't catch it, you could have had a supersedure where a queen superseded and you didn't know about it, and therefore she's not marked. So don't just automatically think, oh, my queen's always marked. All I have to do is look for that dot every single time I open a colony. That's not the case. Now, there's a good amount of seams of bees here. I got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, about 6. So this is a good sized cluster. And all you have to do if you want to get the bees off this board, you just kind of do like a quick jerk motion down and it knocks most of them off. Doesn't really hurt the bees. Just like that. You can give it a little bit of smoke, calm them down. Now there's comb on this, so they have something to really cling to also. So I'm gonna go ahead and set the rest of them down here. And what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to get the bees out of the way of this burr comb on top here, because I'd like to go ahead and remove that. It's just messy. Do yourself a favor as a beekeeper and keep your hives clean and tidy, and you'll be rewarded. All right. Now the other thing I want to do is I want to get rid of all this here. So I'm going to try to drive them off of it. I don't really like killing bees if I don't have to. And some of these could be nurse bees that have, they've never even been outside before. I'm looking for eggs while I'm scraping this, and I'm not seeing anything. So I'm still gonna pull 1 or 2 frames because I'd like to just see evidence of a queen in here officially, other than what I was telling you before, where I just look at the hive entrance. And I'm looking, I don't see any eggs in these cells. Of course, this time of year, you're also looking for swarm cells. And that's your indicator number 1 there that your hive is getting ready to swarm. By the time you see swarm cells, especially fully capped swarm cells, the signal to swarm has been triggered and there's pretty much little or nothing you can do about it. Your best hope is to capture the swarm if it lands somewhere nearby. So there's no eggs in this comb. I always save the comb because I harvest the beeswax. I've had some candle makers reach out to me. I don't do a lot with it yet, but I may end up making some cosmetics or something along those lines with the actual comb itself, or I mean with the beeswax. All right. These bees are not too grumpy. Honestly, I thought they'd be a little more agitated. But let's pull a frame here and let's see what kind of brood we're looking at on this colony. So you always want to start with the outside frame. Try to pull it straight up so you don't squish bees. Probably not many bees on this frame. Nope. Set it aside. I like to pull 2 frames. Personal preference, but it gives me more room. The bees are starting to draw comb right here. Because like I said, it's go time, and I run single brood management, so the bees will use every ounce of space in this deep for their queen to lay. Now I can see that the center of the cluster here is about right here, so this is the frame I want to look at. So all I'm going to do is I'm going to put my hive tool down here, use leverage. Lots of pollen baskets. That's a really good sign. I like seeing that. And I'm going to push these 2 frames over. And now I got room to pull this frame up without potentially rolling my queen. Because that's a big oh crap. Now let's take a look at this frame and see what we're looking at here. Oh yeah. I like bees that are calm on the comb. Looking down in here, I certainly see some brood that's hatched. I see capped brood. And looking here, gotta look in the light here. Good news is I don't see any swarm cells yet. So I'm just gonna hold this up and look in the light so I can see down in the cells. And I see fresh eggs. Now, I'm gonna try to bring this around to the camera. You're probably not gonna be able to see it. Down in the cells there, looks like a tiny little white grain of rice at the very bottom of the cell, sticking straight up. I don't know, the sun's not out, so I don't know if you're really gonna be able to see that too well. But I've now seen everything I need to see to know that somewhere in this hive, I've got a viable queen. So I'm gonna put this frame, and you wanna put the frames back in the orientation that you pulled them out, so remember that. In other words, you don't wanna flip them around. I'll pull one more frame here just to show you all. I don't need to see anything else as the beekeeper. I've seen everything I need to see. It's warm enough that it's okay keeping this colony open for this long. Not a big deal. So let's go ahead and pull this frame up and take a look here. All right. So plenty of brood here. Capped brood right here. Open brood right here. I can see fresh eggs down in the cells. Some pearly white larvae over here that you all probably can't see on the camera. That's okay. Let's take a look at the other side here. Yep, and there's some young larvae in these cells down here. Show you all on the camera. So that biscuity color is capped brood, and there's young larvae down in those cells next to it that's referred to as open brood. And that larva is only a few days old, freshly hatched from the eggs. So I'm gonna put this frame back in the colony here. Didn't spot my queen, but I don't care. I don't need to. I know she's in here. I know she's viable and healthy. She's laying like she should be. Fresh pollen's coming in. I'm gonna gently close these frames back together. Try not to squish any bees. Get the bees a little bit of smoke. And you can stick your hive tool down here and use leverage to push these back together from the top. Try not to squish any bees. Push from the top here. Watch out, bee. You can kind of see, kind of coax the bees out of the way. Push the frames back together. Grab the 2 frames that you set aside. Stick them back in here. These bees are really calm. Happy bees. Now, once you get all the frames back in the box, I like to center them. So again, use the side of your hive tool and push them together. And then from this side, push them together so that you kind of create the equal spacing here. I'm gonna bring the camera in so you can see these pollen baskets real quick, just in case you haven't seen it. Because there's lots of pollen in this hive. So see that on the back legs there? There's some pollen baskets right there on that bee. And there's lots of bees with pollen baskets here. These bees are pretty happy. I tell you, I don't see a lot of drones. Like I'm just scanning here looking for drones, which are male bees. I don't see any drones in this hive yet. Now the queen will lay those. So she will lay an unfertilized egg that will turn into a drone, and that drone is comprised of 100% of her DNA. So we should start to see drones appearing in colonies here pretty soon, because it's about that time where we're gonna have swarming, and then we're gonna have virgin queens emerge, and they're gonna go on their mating flights. So colonies are gonna need to start producing drones for reproductive purposes. Let me put the camera back on the stand here. All right. Okay, let's go ahead and close this colony back up here. Drive the bees back down. Let's get our Vivaldi board back on here. I'm gonna try to get the bees off the edge here. All right, just kind of scoot around. Try not to squish any bees. All right, take my nice new sugar brick here, stick it on the square. Now they got plenty of food for a few days. Of course, there's always one bee that wants to get in there. So let's get our burlap, because we still got cold Kentucky days coming. I think this weekend's supposed to get down in the 20s. So we're not out of the woods yet. Some folks, you know, already pulling all their quilt boxes and putting supers on. Probably no significant harm there, but that is extra bee space, and the bees are still going to cluster during this cold weather, so they're not going to get up in those supers. They will soon enough. As soon as that weather turns warm, it's on like Donkey Kong. But I just don't think we're there yet, in my humble opinion. Go ahead and put the top back on. And this colony is looking good. Yeah, so that's it. I'm gonna go through the rest of the colonies here, all 9 of them that I have left, and we'll take a look at their food stores and Should they be low like this one, I'm gonna put more sugar brick on them, and we'll keep doing this until it consistently stays warm out here, and then the bees won't even care about the sugar brick. They'll probably kick it out the front door because they always prefer the natural stuff for sure. So if there's natural pollen or natural nectar that's available, they're gonna go after that over any fake stuff that I can give them. So, which is good, that's what we want. But yeah, that's really it. I hope you guys enjoyed the video, and I'll see you on the next one. Hey, bonus footage here. Wanted to shoot a quick video on this next hive that I opened up. There's some drone brood here. So I was just saying I didn't see drones in the other one. That is drone brood right there, and they are larger cells than the normal ones. You can see some of the drone larva that was ripped open when I pulled apart this shim. See how quickly the bees will go up in there and start building combs. So the queen 100% has been up in this shim. She wasn't up here when I looked just a minute ago, but there's, you know, she's already starting to lay drone brood here, getting ready for the swarming season. So that's what that white looking larva is right there. Those are drones. And what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna pull some of them, and I'm gonna look to see if I see any varroa mites attached to any of them, because varroa loves drone brood. But anyway, I just thought I would share that with you real quick. This shim had some drone brood in it. So thanks for watching, everybody.